Okay. Okay, go ahead, Bill.
I would like to call the August 19, 2024 meeting of the Town of Niskuna Fleet Streets Committee to order. Ms. Healy, is she joining us from?
She said she couldn't.
Okay, that's absent today. Carla Douglas here. Thank you, Carla. Hello. Oh, thank you so much. This will have the budget stuff. Show. William Chapman is here. Jim Levy may be joining us, or did he email?
Jim said he needs,
Maybe. Is he?
Andrew's here.
Andrew's here. Okay. Thank you for joining us, Andrew.
Yeah, Jim can't make it today.
Catherine Kuzman. Hello, Catherine. We see you out in the virtual line. Yes. Ben O'Shea, has he, you didn't hear from Ben yet. Okay. Planner Laura Robertson, and we also have Trish Bergen, who works in attendance. The next item is privilege of the floor, and we do have a town resident, Mary O'Keefe, at 2255 Algonquin, that would like to speak at privilege. So, when and where? Yes, you certainly may. You certainly may.
To hear better also. So I'm 70 years old. I have lived almost half my life, 34 years in this. The first half of my life I spent in Walker's Paradise. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and then spent most of my adult life before coming here in Massachusetts. It was a big adjustment moving to Niskuna. I lived here for 2 years. I lived just north of Route 7 near Carla. And for the first 2 years, I did not drive. I didn't I had a license, but I literally did not drive. And I had 2 young children, and I walked everywhere or took the bus. And at that time, Route 7 was 2 lanes in each direction, much narrower, no turn lane. And that meant that traffic was going slower. And so I could take the bus to, say, Schenectady, getting on my side of Troy Road. I'd come off with 2 young children, one in a backpack, one by the hand. I would just stand, I'd be on the opposite side of Route 7. I'd just stand there for a few minutes, and eventually cars on both sides would just stop, like the Red Sea. It was a totally different world. Within 2 years, they decided to widen that, and it felt like it just became a very pedestrian place.
What year was that?
That was, so we moved here 1 week before my youngest daughter's first, when she was born. And so that was 1990. We moved here 1992 when she was 2 years old and still getting heavy to carry that back. And the road had gotten wider and people were just speeding. Was when I just bit the bullet and decided, okay, best start driving. And now I still have a soft spot in my heart for walking, but then I didn't really walk as much as I wish I had or use transit until the pandemic. And then suddenly it was a walker's paradise for a few weeks, months, and it was amazing. Since then, I have tried to walk and take the bus as much as possible. So I feel like I have a sense of, I've walked all over this town, of of the pedestrian friendly. And there's some things, observations I wanted to make specifically about Troy Road. So the sidewalk, I measured it. In most places, it is 4.5 feet wide with like 1 feet of grass between traffic that's going, sometimes 60 or more miles an hour.
So your tape measure of the sidewalk, it's not a 5-foot sidewalk, it's only 4.5.
It's 4.5 feet for most. And there's a few sections where it's a little wider, but then the grass, it comes out of the grass strip. So it's 4.5 feet wide in most of the sections that I have measured. It's not 5 feet, which is the sort of minimum size, for a actual sidewalk. And for a side path, which is designed to accommodate bikes as well as foot traffic, that the desired minimum, I mean, that's desirable to have it be like 9 to 11 feet, but minimum 8 feet. So I have walked up and down it a lot. And I also researched, bike laws in the state. And so there's no state law prohibiting bikes on sidewalks. Municipalities have the right to restrict it. So in New York City, for example, unless you're under 12 with a bicycle diameter under, 26 inches, you can't be riding a bike on the sidewalk. But as far as I know, Niskayuna does not have any prohibitions. So, and I do see people biking on Route 7. My daughter has occasionally biked on Route 7 herself. She lives with me. She was here with me the last time I spoke. It is not a great place to be biking or walking any distance because you're breathing all this, exhaust emissions that is only inches away. So I would encourage thinking about, there's certain stretches of Route 7 that maybe are critical stretches that connect sort of alternate, you could get on and off Route 7. And that, in fact, is what I do when I'm walking places. I'll walk that first block when I've gone into Hickory, and then I'll take a detour and go around Broman and, other ways. So that's just something, rather than thinking, okay, we have to make the whole thing.
So you walk in your neighborhood, but you don't cross over Route 7.
So I do. So now when I take the bus back from Schenectady, I cross up at St. David's when I get off, and then I walk across, and boy, that pedestrian signal is terrible. It really takes two. One, it's all so short, you can barely get to the island, and then you have to wait a whole other cycle.
Then when you get off the bus, are you close to the crosswalk at St. David's Lane? Going across Route 7?
Yes. Although, I mean, if the $4 million grant goes through, I get off at Hickory and cross at that light, and then I just have, 1 block to home.
Yeah.
So it would be something that would really, enormously change my personal quality of life. But I do spend a lot of time on the bus. I talk to people getting on I have a sense of who uses it. And I just think it's really exciting. I have watched every video of this committee that's on the web. And I'm really enormously excited about the developments in the last 14 months since I've been here with this committee. At the same time, it's sad that, 2 more people have died, since I was last here, including a young child. And I think there are critical stretches, where the road bends and I see guardrails, and not just fatalities, but I regularly see that guardrail down when a car has gone off the road. And I think there's a need to track that as well. So
Laura has to leave at 3:40. I was wondering if you would be willing to kind of point out a number of things that you've identified and send us an email where send it to Laura and we'll share it with the committee. So maybe other things that you thought of. So
I have really been thinking about this, and I want to commend the thoughtful process that I've seen this committee adopt for the whole town and the long term. So that's
keep your name. We do have to have a citizens committee on the linkage study of residents that live close by and town residents. And so we'll put your name, and if you're willing, recommend that you be included on a task team. So no, you may stay exactly where you are. You don't have to go.
Close it.
Yeah, you can.
Don't forget to send your resume to Michelle right now.
I will do that.
Okay.
Let's move on here. We have the minutes for July 29, and I have just a couple of quick corrections on line 68. In her attempt to propose, it's not propose, just propose. First word in line 68. Then, man, I can give you this if it's helpful. Line 91 is, we would like to poll, not hold the committee. We would poll the committee. And then 92 should say to do sidewalk work, not sidewalk. To do sidewalk work this year, not that year. So it should say to do sidewalk work this year. Then on 94, it should say design instead of DEIGN. Then 96 and 97, did we do those or not? But anyway, I wanted to say 99, just Chairman Chevin suggested going over speed humps on Birchwood Lane at the next meeting, so. And with those modifications, I propose that we accept the minutes for the August 19 meeting, and without, if anyone has another correction or addition they want to make to the minutes.
You second it, Carl?
Second. So moved and second. All in favor of accepting the minutes for August 19, please raise your hand. We'll get them quickly. A hand up, Catherine. Well, thank you. And I can read that. So.
Yeah.
Okay. The next item of business. I'd like to, since Laura has to leave, we'll try to get these two items in. First is the budget items for complete streets. And then we'll jump back to safety on Route 7. I do have our budget here that was, well, that's the final, but I think probably the reading minutes the same. So we have there you go. In 5410 2000 175,000, which is equipment capital outlay, and then we have 4601. Plants, and I guess in order for the 175,000 to be put to good use, that we need to use or encumber that money this year. So we need to give some thought. At the last meeting, we did talk about sidewalks on Console Road. That's a county road. Now, I think the county is more open to spending money if they've already got design plans in place. We also talked about Van Antwerp Road over here, and we've talked about Rosendale Road. And I mean, we also talked about sidewalk on the west side of Balltown Road, going from Knott Street down to Rankin Road, so that when students walk up Crescent Road, they don't have to jaywalk across Balltown. They can walk the one block from Crescent down to Rankin Road and go into school. But I mean, I guess we're we don't do it today, we at least need to think about how would we spend this money and think fast, right? Because we've got to, well, yeah, in other words,
That would be the only thing that I would say is that this is actually budgeted money at the town, so if we could spend it on town roads, it would be better. But
okay,
most of the time, the critical connections are on state and county roads, so if we leverage the town dollars now, we might be able to get significant grants to do the construction later too on county roads.
we do have a plan to do the sidewalk on Birchwood Lane. We didn't get-
Cornelius.
And Cornelius, we didn't get the grant. Now, the folks on Birchwood, we're gonna talk about it. They've asked us about speed humps, and I know that the town is up and down on that. But, I mean, did we get prices on either Cornelius or Birchwood Lane?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
I mean, do we wanna encumber 175? I mean, can we use any of the ADA compliance money?
So we can use the ADA compliance money, but it has to, the ADA compliance money does not count for new sidewalk. If your sidewalk is touching old sidewalk intersections, and you make those old sidewalk intersections compliant, then you can use some ADA money, but you couldn't funnel all the ADA money to completely new sidewalk projects. The way that they'll work is connections.
Now, at the crosswalk at Birchwood School, I mean, could some of the ADA money be used to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, if we,
I mean, I know those numbers from last year.
I mean, if you have to go, and we can't do the digging now, but I don't know, what members feel about, as a matter of fact, the sidewalk may alleviate the request for speed humps on that road, but have money.
There is existing sidewalk on the east, so that we could hook up with that.
I don't know the answer to that. We would be going across Story Avenue and straight down to school, so that's would be new sidewalk. We'd have to look to see at the corner of Cornelius and Story if that's ADA compliant. It certainly, maybe use some of the money to do that.
Most of our sidewalks are not ADA compliant. So pretty much anytime you touch an old sidewalk, you have the ability to make it ADA compliant. Yes, okay, so here's the numbers. Birchwood Elementary School was $662,000 for that sidewalk. The Hillside Elementary School, which is actually Cornelius, was $361,000, and then the Van Antwerp one, which is Palmer. So we having the sidewalk on Palmer, which would be a great use of the ADA funds, is $81,000.
Well,
So possibly you could possibly tackle Hillside and then try and carve $60,000 off of that to get it in the $300,000 range. Or you could do Palmer and engineering or something for those guys.
say that again. We could
So,
do,
so Hillside is almost, it's a little bit over, but almost $300,000, right?
okay.
So that could be, you could just target that design, construction and everything. Or you could do Palmer, which is a really good use of the ADA money because it's existing sidewalk, but the sidewalk is only like 2 feet wide.
Yeah.
So if you redid that, you'll make that whole sidewalk ADA compliant, which would be great. That's a really good use of the ADA money. And then you could use the 175 to design that side or Birchwood.
Could we design both Birchwood and
Or
Hillside?
maybe you could use that to design both of them. Yeah, and then actually do construction on Palmer.
Now, the sidewalks in front of the school, there's also asphalt on the school side also that,
Yeah, there
in
is.
front of Van Antwerp Middle School that needs to be cleaned up. It's not, I mean, it's an asphalt pathway, but I mean, we could, when we do Palmer Avenue in the one block, we could also go across the street. And as a matter of fact, even the ADA compliance would work on that, that we could, yeah, see, when you go across the street, the parking lot sidewalk, but it's grass when you go from the school parking lot.
Wait, let me just share it, guys.
So we do that sidewalk. And then when you go across the street, you see that there's a sidewalk there, but then it's a grass strip that goes from there down to the asphalt sidewalk on school property.
Which you
And-
can see the tiny, tiny little section right there.
Yeah, and it's heavily used because it's a drop-off area, so there's always cars parked there picking up kids. And no, I mean, you could use some of the ADA to go across to do that. And yeah, so I don't know what do people think? I mean, we can do with the money we have. In other words, if we don't spend it, it likely devolves into the general fund, and who knows whether it'll be there next year, but we can do that sidewalk. We can go across
And then we could. design-
Story and do that little chip in front of the
Here.
school. Right there. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, you can't see it too well, but you can do that.
Design that one and design,
As a matter of fact, while we're talking design,
This one.
is there any sentiment to doing a design on Nicholas that would go up to the intersection of Nicholas? Yeah. Because people have talked about that when you are walking to the school, there's now a good crowd that kind of goes to the bottom of the parking lot at Hillside Elementary. I mean, Cornelius gets used, but there are other people that come off of Story that walk along Nicholas. And then since we've done the work with the sidewalk there now, we would be nice to get foot traffic there because they can use the crosswalk and use the new sidewalk that we now have constructed on Plum to get to the school. So even if we decide not to build on that, we can at least get the design work done so that would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're spending town money on town roads, even though I know they're over critical county.
Yeah.
sections. I do think that that's probably a good use of that money.
And part of this, we're also ministering to Birchwood because we're doing a design there too that will make it easier for us to get grant money. So,
And we can review, speed humps as part of that design. The whole thing can be traffic calming with a possible raised crosswalk.
yes,
Yeah.
it's just,
How much does designs typically cost then? Like,
So
what ranges?
typically it's somewhere in the range of like 20 to 30% of construction. So when you see 600,000 plus 300,000, 900,000, so it'd be like 20 to 30% of 900,000. So it is. I like the
180,000.
Okay, for
That's
those
pretty
two,
close.
for
Yeah.
Cornelius. Birchwood. Okay,
They're pretty close.
okay.
Do we want to talk about this before the next meeting, or do we want to do something today?
Jeez.
Okay. I then propose of the $300,000 that's currently sitting in our budget lines that the Complete Streets Committee do construction work on the sidewalk between Grand Boulevard and Story Avenue to put in a 5-foot sidewalk there, concrete sidewalk. And that we also do a chip of sidewalk construction across the street on Story Avenue in front of Van Antwerp Middle School, so it's ADA compliant. And it's also will be walkable for parents that drop off and pick up kids, especially since 5th and 6th grade, all 5th and 6th grade in the town will now be assigned to Van Antwerp. There'll be more car traffic there. Then I also propose that we use remaining money to do the design work on Cornelius Avenue from Ray Street to to Hillside Elementary, that we also do the design work on Nicholas from Ray Street to the entrance to Hillside Elementary on Plum Street. And that we also do the design work on Birchwood Avenue from Troy Road to Birchwood Elementary, including push button crosswalk at the entrance to the school. And that we examine speed humps as a traffic calming possibility on Birchwood Night. Anybody want to add anything else, Carla,
No,
or?
it sounds like that's even gonna be more.
Yeah, Nicholas might have to be like an additive bid.
Okay.
And so if we have the money, we can add it in, but if we don't,
Right,
it have
yeah,
staff. So I can
Yeah,
bid
just
it out like
bid it out if
there's
there's,
Cornelius and Birchwood, and then they'll also bid Nicholas, and if it fits, then we award it, and if it doesn't fit, then it has to wait. Yeah.
Catherine, sound okay to you?
That sounds really good, right? There's not a lot of money, so using it for design makes a lot of sense.
Well, Laura advises if we don't use it.
You don't want to lose it.
use it. Andrew, are you out there?
Yep, I'm here. That sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, the motion I just made, I propose what I just articulated. Looking for a second. Second by Carla Duggal. All in favor, hands up, please. 1, 2, 3,
Did it electronically.
then electronical.
Good
So,
job, Andrew.
we have, four yeses, is that correct?
Yeah, Andrew Rose.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, thank you. That's, a good plan. So do we want to talk just briefly, the safety on Route 7, the linkage study? Last time we, proposed some adjustments to the statement of work, and I have just a couple of other just questions. Is this memo already done and in the bank, or send it? Okay.
Original, and they did take them into account. If we send them more, I'm not sure if they'll be able to take them into account, but you could certainly send them to me and I can
Okay.
to them.
So one was, do we have any results from our townwide comp plan survey? Is there anything on Troy Road that we might want to include that the survey says boom, boom, because they are talking about things?
We can,
And what I said was our complete streets goals for 24, 25, send them that. Priority letters, and I guess we haven't got those done, so we can't send, but we can maybe send last year's. And then I wanted to make sure they got our big map copy of that, because that is a planning document that's available that they could see. And then have a new public element, and we'll need residents then on the town contribution. Do we have to provide a site? Are we going to say the town hall meeting room is open for all the meetings that they have? Is that, would we need to say that, or just, is that,
No,
that's, okay, okay,
to the consultant.
okay. Okay, consultant study. Now, I noticed that the, I don't say in the plan, when I read complete streets plan, I mean, if they identify bike and pedestrian as something that they need to look at as part of the road, but do they have to address that in the final plan? Is the final plan going to address pedestrian and bike needs?
Yeah.
Because I don't see the word pedestrian or bicycle stated in here.
Because complete streets automatically, complete streets automatically mean
Okay.
that all modes of transportation have equal representation, and right now, Route 7 is way represented by cars, so if you're doing complete streets.
See, I was worried that this was all boilerplate that was just held over from the day that we just do cars. That, bikes and cars weren't there, and so, and now how they're gonna-
Oh. But they did send the statement of work up to their approvers.
It could be close enough, but maybe
Okay.
just being too tedious, so I mean, I was only saying it to you so that we're here.
Yeah. And then, they're expecting to get approval to put the statement of work out on the, on the ground for people to bid on within a week or two. And then I think it stays open for a month, and then we'd be selecting a consultant, like I would say we'd be selecting a consultant for this study within a month and a half to 2.5 months, just for timeline. And as part of that Bill mentioned to Mary at the beginning of the meeting, we do need to start putting together like a group of people that will participate on the work for the actual linkage studies.
Yeah, how many will we be able to offer?
So I think
I mean, we have some citizens, but we
So,
also have members of our.
there's
police
kind of two
committee.
tables. There's gonna be the table where we have a limited number of representatives that are sitting down with New York State, Schenectady County, CRTC. At that time, we can really only send 4 or 5 people, and like including myself. So like me, possibly the chief of police, possibly the chairman of the Complete Streets Committee, and then maybe one other member. But we can have our own group that's reviewing and then those guys can say, here's what we want you representatives to take to the bigger committee. So
That's a good idea.
we can almost, not unlimited, but I think we can have as much representation as we can get from Route 7 so that we have a really solid perspective when we go to that table.
Yes.
They're looking for a very diverse group of
Yeah,
citizens as well.
yeah.
They need a lot of bases to cover there.
Yeah. And I want to send you guys, I forgot to do it before this meeting, but at the last Capital Region Transportation Committee meeting, they went over a linkage study that was recently completed in the city of Schenectady. And different environments, the city of Schenectady was a disadvantaged neighborhood with like a speed limit of 35 miles an hour, but it was complete streets treatments for that neighborhood so they could walk. And interestingly, one of the big, things that came back was that those neighborhoods are so hot, it's uncomfortable for pedestrians to be walking on that sidewalk. And so one of the main recommendations of that is to figure out ways to plant street trees and make that environment more walkable, not so hot, more inviting, because 40% of the people in that neighborhood don't have cars. So little different than Route 7, but really interesting to watch. And one of the reasons that it's probably good for you to watch it is that it talks about how they did their neighborhood outreach. They're required to do that in the federal study, which is the same study that we have, and it's very robust. And so you can get a sense of the ways that they did outreach, and how they got people to come and give them comments. And whether we're going to probably have to modify a little of that for Route 7. It's just not as walkable already in those places. But I really, if you have like 25 minutes to half an hour to watch it, I really recommend it.
Okay, what is it, the name again? It's,
I'll email it to you.
they say here, they're gonna collect input from workshop participants. Well, as part of the public input session, the consultant may propose to use the study's website
Yes.
as
it'll
another
be
means of
on the
collecting
website.
public input. So we should definitely let people, Route 7 or really in the town, saying, if you have comments about Route 7 that you want to propose, you can go to the website and type them in. And I actually had written a note, well, would we want to do our own survey of Route 7 residents to put some questions together and hand it out?
Everything is here.
Okay.
And I'll send you the Schenectady website because essentially they're going to build a website for Route 7 in essentially the same fashion as they did for. So you can go to that website now and see what kind of information is on there. That's
The whole idea, I think, of a website on Route 7 is so good because they're going to include all these planning documents and everything. So everybody will be able to read online from their home computers, what's out there and what they're going to be looking at and the minutes of the meetings and everything. So
It's very
it's going to
transparent.
be very
And
transparent.
then you can put up concepts and people can see them and talk about them and react to them. And then you can really get all that information out there. And they're nice looking websites. It's not like the town of Niskuna.
Where you see the Niskuna comprehensive plan, or I was gonna say, the answer to questions, I think a couple of the questions does have input from Route 7. Could we send them
Yeah, we can send them all. Or
and do change? Yeah, I mean, so we'd say, here are residents who live along Route 7, probably Mary's included on that, their comments about the road. So since we've collected in a survey, we should send it to the state people. And so,
It's Crane. It's a Crane connection
You
to.
shared that with us.
Oh, I did.
I think, well, not the website, but some of the plans and examples that they.
For Route 9, I think near Troy. Did I share you the Schenectady one?
There was something you shared about that.
Oh, I did?
remember looking at something, but I can't remember. It wasn't a video though, for sure.
Oh, I'll send you the video. It's really good. I just sent it to the Times Union because I'm telling them how great it is. So I can just forward you guys the email.
okay. In the last 2 minutes that we have you, Laura,
Yeah.
is there another item on here? Or do you want to speak on the comp plan? Do you want to speak on the speed humps do you have a planning project or?
So right now,
Okay.
I'll listen to the rest of the meeting. So when you guys discuss the comp plan, if you need me to do something, just tell me. And then, I still need to write the letters to Winnie Road. I know I saw that email from Audrey.
Well, I have some thoughts and I can probably email them to you, included the other letters, and I'll send those to you.
Yes. And then Trish, if you. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad. The big thing was the vote on the projects, which I will take and do.
Before you leave, any update on when we're likely to hear about the $4 million grant?
We did hear about that one and it was not awarded.
Oh,
It's a very competitive grant and I would guess, I don't mind asking DOT if we can get like a sort of a hot wash on why we didn't get the grant. I think that's always a good idea. But my guess is because we didn't have design. So the linkage study would essentially give us the design so that we would be much more competitive the next round.
Oh, so we can take the link, we can apply next year, right? I mean,
It depends on how long the linkage study takes, but yes,
Oh,
I
whenever it's
plan, I plan to, it doesn't have to. I actually plan to submit on the next round, even if we're in the middle of the linkage study, I'm going to continually apply for that done, but I do think it would be good to get like some feedback from the state on why it wasn't chosen. It's definitely an area in need, but my guess would be it's because there was no design and there's no planning for it.
so it was the state that said no, not the feds?
The state is the one that reviews the grants based on criteria that's established for our area. They're the ones that recommend the awards to the federal government.
so there's a point system and they
There's a
would tell
point
us you
system.
fell short because A,
Yes,
B, and C.
yeah. Yeah, the state's the reviewers. They do the recommendation. The federal government ultimately is the one that funds the grants, but they don't really review them. It's really the state that looks at them. Yeah. Yeah, I heard you say that in your comments, and I meant to tell you, we did not get that grant,
Right.
but I am gonna try again.
Will you send an email to the Police Streets Committee? I mean, you're telling us now, but I guess I was just wondering, well, if we get where we fell short, I mean, could we send that to the committee or
Yeah.
is that? Thank you.
So Laura, with that particular grant, I think it was the Transportation Alternatives Program, the TAP grant. I don't know if they do solicitations every year. I mean, from what I
No.
it was like every 2 years. So actually the timing may work out well for us because it will take a year for the consultant to come up with recommendations, I would think.
Yeah, and that was very specific to transportation. It was the TAP.
Yeah.
And the TAP, it may have been a little bit tough because we were saying sidewalks and pedestrian, but we still didn't have those designs. There's also the STIP coming out, so we can try for the STIP. If we don't get the STIP, then we can go back to the TAP. They
Right.
kind of alternate with each other. Yes. So, yeah. Yep. All right. I'll see you guys later. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us. Okay. Well, anyway, I do feel like what Laura sent us on the linkage study. We got it last meeting, and again, for this one, it was helpful to me to read through it again to see what the linkage study will incorporate. And it's actually a pretty impressive plan with collecting a lot on what's already been done and collecting citizen input and, design work. So it's almost like us talking about doing some design work now for Birchwood or Cornelius or Palmer Avenue, that a lot of community input on and expert opinion on what needs to be done in terms of calming and community support and the other things will be there. So you prepare a grant, if the state sends a grant forward to the feds to get the money to do Route 7, and it won't be cheap, but we'll be in a much better place to try to get those funds. So I guess I'd like to move on to the draft comprehensive plan chapter, mobility and transportation. And I've given a read. I haven't gotten, all the way through, and I know I'm part of the delinquent team here that I need to finish some stuff and get it up. But I would defer to Catherine if you want to say a couple words about the plan that, work you and Carla have done so far. And
Well, what I've done so
I know that you mentioned an implementation section, which Leslie Gold mentioned that we have recommended tasks that get mentioned as we're working our way through here. And I guess we maybe need to look at the chapter in the last plan to see, or what do we need to add? And I guess an implementation section is that. So, but that may not be, I mean, I think we wanted, I wouldn't strip our text of the implementation tasks. We might cut it down a bit because it's sort of, we talk about existing conditions, we talk about things that are not good, and then, we have some recommendations on what needs to be done. So, if those get repeated in a implementation section, at least the reader, they're not just sitting by themselves in a list of implementation tasks that, we've justified why we asked for those things in the text where we're talking about, the sections, existing conditions and limitations. And so, I know you see Bill has a hug around every sentence that we've written and, would like to add an implementation section, but I guess it's something that we have to do and work on a bit. So I didn't mean to step on that. I'll let you go ahead, Catherine, but I think it was something that we talked about a little bit and something. So.
Yeah, no, we did talk about that, and we never really finalized how we were going to handle it. I still think it's important to list some of the proposed projects within the body of the chapter, because it does give it context. I don't know if we necessarily want to include every project we can think of, but we can say within the report that for a full list of proposed projects, go to Appendix A, whatever you call it. And so that's the next thing I think that we need to work on as a group, to decide which projects we want to keep in the body of it, and then which projects do we want to have within, just within the appendix itself. And we can prioritize, we can set our own priorities as to how we want to go about doing that. Hopefully we can meet sometime in August.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's my big concern. The only other thing I've done since then, I incorporated Jim's comments in my section, the introduction, and in the safety section. I stayed away from your section, Carla, because I know you were still working on it. So I did not do anything with Jim's comments for that part of it. I included a section on ADA and also on public education. So you'll see that in the new version that I sent out Saturday. I hope you got it. Did you get it?
Yes, yep.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, so it's in there. And I think that's about it, really. What we want to do then is get together as a
Well,
group.
we have discussed intersections that,
I know.
meeting where there's some mention in Plan 2013, and we have talked in here about, well, off the Rexford Bridge, there still seem to be a volume of accidents, not serious, but fender benders at that rotary. And so we may want to say, we'd like to ask the state to take a look at that. And then, the left-hand lane on that street, when it comes to Balltown, to be able to, when the next time the state looks at that, we'd like them to look at that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. Yeah.
So Jim's and Andrew's comments in my section, but they type those in, but they're actually probably part of the mobility. The how traffic kind of flows along, like where you have issues with intersections and neighborhoods from the previous plan. So I mean, I can work making a table for that, and I also have to figure out the whole editing. So I can edit your sections too with help with.
Yeah, that's a struggle for me too. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm probably just going to write in a red pen and then drive it over to Catherine's house, put it in her front door, and say, "Well, here's my suggestions." Now Jim Levy would say, "Bill, that's old school. You go here and you go here, and you type it in whatever." But
I'm fine with red.
you had sent me the clip that level of service. I mean, we looked at the news clip. That level of service should not necessarily, it shouldn't be the standard for whether an intersection works or not. Is this intersection safe? And does it have the other safety features that are in there? Because in a lot of projects, the construction people or the developers hires a traffic company to look at level of service, and then he's done with it. But Laura's been sending plans to us, and so we want to look at the whole intersection, like, is it ADA compliant, and is it going to be safe, and does it need a rotary or a planting in the middle or other treatments to slow traffic down?
So some things from safety and
Yeah, or and then I also keep reading clips about e-bikes on the bike path, that a lot of people are deeply troubled by those, that they're walking on the bike path, and it's not like somebody comes by on a 10-speed. I mean, the people are zipping by on motorized vehicles. And I mean, I do know there are some people that ride bikes, but they're like, "Bill, I pedal most of it, but I'm older and I need the motor to get up and down the hill." And so, but either we need to think about, and the one letter that I read said, hey, it says no motorized vehicles on the bike path. And so that, I think we either need to make a decision about, either if you need the e-bike to get up and down the hills, then you got to be on the road or whatever. And or I don't know, maybe we have a speed limit standard, or we've got something, but generally it's kind of a hot issue, and we at least need to say the town needs to take a look at really countywide, really. I mean, we may even have to ask county planning to say, on the Mohawk Hudson bike path, are e-bikes on it? But I mean, we also have e-bikes. We have our own bike path that just goes right along Knott Street East here. Are people welcome to ride e-bikes on that or not? And
Address the problem by just saying a speed limit. If you're on an e-bike, okay, but you can't go faster than, a typical regular bike would go.
yeah.
So that's something.
Do you know what the speed limit would be? Is it like 15 miles?
20,
20
which
maybe?
is, pretty fast to be doing manually, but I guess if you're going downhill, you could go 20 on a regular bike. So
But,
that is
I mean, it could also be,
these wheelchairs, are they allowed on the bike path? I would think.
and also I think, I mean, just coming up on your left, if you're on a bike, I mean, it could be that you need a bell or you need something that's gonna let pedestrians know somebody is coming up on you in a motorized bike and you have noticed to be looking around or whatever. And now, I mean, bicyclists, usually it's a courtesy to say, I'm coming up on your left or whatever, and they do that. And most can slow down or move over to the side, but if we're sharing the roads, I mean, if we have the same share the bike path model, then we would need to do something on that, I think, to, in other words, we need a section on e-bikes and the bike path, I think, even if all we say is it's an issue that needs to be addressed, basically. It's a safety issue that needs to be addressed. I certainly would add that.
I mean, I can see us writing a couple sentences about e-bikes.
Yeah.
And how other, communities are addressing it, because there is a safety concern. There absolutely is. I don't think we're going to have any kind of resolution of it before.
Oh, It wouldn't be a page or anything, but it does say it's a problem in Niskayuna as it is in other communities. And, some people post no bikes on the bike path, but the bikes are still there. So that's not enforced and other things are happening. So we really looked at the whole range of, say, wheelchairs or bikes or whatever, but it does need to be a section. Anything else you want to say, Carla, about the comp plan? Okay.
Also, it's been a busy summer. So.
Yes, it is for all of us. Anything else you want to say, Carla, on the comp plan? Or
Uh,
mobility and transportation section?
No, I think we just need to get together at some point and go over the proposed appendix. That's all.
Okay. We need to thank Jim and Andrew Millspaw for sending us comments, at least on what we've sent so far. And they might even be willing to take another bite at looking at it if we get another draft that we feel has got the text the way we want it, and we've got some implementation tasks. And as we get a draft that we're reasonably comfortable with and have the Complete Streets folks look at it again, and then maybe we vote it on to the comp plan committee and have it.
I think it'd be helpful though for Laura
Oh,
to
yes.
look at it as well.
Oh, yes.
Her perspective, I'd like to see if there's
Yes.
something that's, clearly missing, or we need to reemphasize something else. I don't know. I would like to get her perspective on it too.
Yeah, she may be, well, yeah, she may have even stronger reorganizational thoughts that Bill and Carla, I mean, we've repeated some things that we don't need to repeat again. I mean, there might be some sections where we might refer the reader back here to get the general characteristics of Troy Road, and we have some mobility thoughts about that. And and also I do, in talking to Rory Fluman about, and Sheldon, who's the highway guy for the county, about, well, really several topics. But when we talk to the residents about the side path on Van Antwerp Road, and we have plans to do more work on Rosendale Road, and then even a suggestion about, we have some blank spaces on Console Road, which is a county road, that around ShopRite, there are some, or Hannaford, I'm sorry, have a sidewalk, then you've got a grassy strip, and then more sidewalk and another grassy strip. That's probably something, we need to ask the county to take a look at. But it's overall, which I think is something we may want some recommendations or some understanding about how is the town gonna work with the county to get side paths on these roads? Because most don't have them. And when you look at them, we know Carla's had folks on St. David's Lane saying, well, you know, we need a side path on this road. And we now look at Pierce Road that, it's the folks south of Troy Road in many ways are bisected by Route 7. So, you know, how do people use Pierce Road to get up to Route 7? And then once you get to Route 7, you know, what venues do you have to get across Route 7 to the other side of town? And I don't know. Do you have a thought, Trish, on people that live on Pierce Road and getting across? or- Yeah.
It's like, it's not even a foot wide.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very dangerous.
I was on it the other day. I was driving on two people walking. It just surprised me because we were walking on.
You have to, like,
Yeah.
if I want to take my dogs for a walk, no matter which
That's what they
direction I
would-
go, I either go up and do Trottingham or go down and do, you know,
Yeah,
St. David's
people
or
walk
Whitney,
their
I
walk,
mean,
yeah.
or, you know what I mean? So it's very small, very narrow. I've taught my dogs, I just say white line the whole time we're walking, so they stay on that line. And I mean, there's people literally that no one's coming the other way and they don't get over. They'll brush past you, like literally this close to you, just brush past you. Or you have a whole lane that they can pull over to go around you and they don't, they will not do it. They just stay right in that lane and
It's scary.
Yeah.
One of the things that, you know, might consider doing is if some people on the committee would like to walk, say, Van Antwerp Road from the traffic circle just down to the CVS on Van Antwerp Road to say, imagine that we wanted to persuade the county to do a side path on this road. I mean, kind of which side would we recommend? And Jim Levy would be a good person to have do it. And then we kind of walked Rosendale Road a bit, and I think the west side of the road, but we'd be talking to homeowners, something we want to do. But even if we walked Pierce Road, and you can almost do it driving, is to say to yourself, well, if we have the political will to do a side path on Pierce Road, which side would we do it on? And I'd even just ask people that drive it, you know, when you're going home or going to work, just ask yourself, well, and Matt Yetta might do it too. It's because utilities, where's the telephone poles and the fire hydrants and the other thing like that. But it's just to imagine, and it will, we know it will be a little bit of a fight with neighbors, but there's some that may be in the middle, some that would say it's a wonderful thing. Other people that are going to say, oh, I don't want a side path in my front yard because people are going to burglarize my garage, steal my bikes, tramp on my grass, throw trash around. All kinds of, all the things that we've done. Yeah.
dog safely. I'll
And-
take a sidewalk in my front yard. I'll give up the however
Yeah.
many feet I need to.
And
Yeah.
also to the idea that, well, a lot of folks would like a concrete sidewalk, but that in some sense only accommodates the pedestrians, that you really need the asphalt side path. So you've got bicyclists and pedestrians that can both use the road. And so that's a little bit of a struggle to get a multi-use pathway as opposed to a sidewalk. But
That's a lot of space.
yeah, it's a lot of space, but on the other hand, I mean, I'm just reminded of the people on the side path that's on Knott Street East here, that Supervisor Smith, and when we decided to do it, there were people that came in and complained. They said it was going to be the end of Knott Street East and Windsor Drive to have a side path there. But, you know, with 4,000 cars a day, you can't let your kids play kickball out on Windsor Drive. And it's really a lovely amenity. I think people have grass and they can walk, they can ride their bikes, and, you know, it's a nice feature. And I think what we've seen is once you get it, and I also think another example of that will be if we work with the folks on Crimson Oak Court or the traffic circle down to Knott Street East, if we can get a side path on the west side of Van Antwerp Road, then not only that, even just talking to the homeowners that are on Knott Street East and Windsor Drive now to ask them, gee, is the side path the end of the world? And, you know, what percent of them say, no, it's a great thing. I mean, having that information, you could certainly share. And another example would be St. David's Lane, it'd be nice to have a side path on that, but you know, there may be many more. I mean, the setback on Pierce is much more than it is on St. David's Lane. St. David's Lane, I think houses are much closer to the road. And so, but even that, you might be able to sell a sidewalk so that you'd say, could we do a concrete sidewalk? And that would be, certainly would be something.
You got a lot of big old trees on St. David.
Yeah.
That people are
Very-
attached
It's
to.
very windy
Yeah,
too.
windy. So, but I guess those are, I guess I mean, we have these county roads, they go all over the town. They're the roads that were here before the town roads were here a lot. And they are the roads that people that use wagons and horses to get around are there. Some of them have some nice, paths, some nice setbacks before you get to homes, and so it wouldn't be hard to do. And, Rosendale Road is, I'm hopeful there because a lot of yards, it's just the side yard, the front of their house faces Fernwood or Godfrey or
So,
Rose Hill. And so it's just, could we use a little bit of the side yard over here where they could be, the kids don't play over there much, or they don't picnic over there, or whatever. And they would like the amenity of having access up and down. In Rosendale, it's almost like it's a river running down there. There's a lot of traffic, car traffic now, but it's not safe. And so there will be some people that have houses that front on the road, and they will be what we would consider good citizens that would say, yes, it's going to be more traffic, but I'm willing to do it. But there will be some that will dig in and, you know. But anyway, I do feel like since we don't have them, it's kind of we almost need a plan on how we can work with the county, especially so if you do one road for one place, those residents don't say, well, you've got a side path on the county road over there for, say, Van Antwerp Road. What do we, chopped liver? Can't we get one too? And the answer is, of course, you can, but there's a lot of, and the thing with the town right away at, 60 feet, you've got space from the edge of the road, maybe 10 feet up. So there's plenty of room to do a sidewalk or even a side path and do the trees, but that's not the case with county. A lot of them are 40. So, you do 15 feet from the middle of the road and you've got a borrow pit. And so you've got 2 feet of right away, but you don't have 10. And so either they've got to give the land to the town or somebody's got to buy it, or they've got to come up with some agreement to get that property to do it. And then of course it's finding the money to do it. But if you got to solve those issues first and get a solid support behind it. But I think it's useful to think about that as we talk to the county, or at least we talk about this as a need and what are some options and some things that can be done. So anyway, anything else on the mobility and transportation chapter, including the fact that we've got to get together and work on it, which okay, we've under new business, we've talked about the 2024 and 2025 budget items, and then grateful to committee members being able to make a decision. We, as you see, we don't suffer from analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
We move ahead. Now, the rest of the world doesn't always cooperate with this. And I did want to say, we have the crosswalk at Knott Street and Regent, which was on our list, but when Laura and I met with Rory Fluman, the county manager, and Paul, they agreed to do the crosswalk at Regent and Knott. It'll be next summer, but they agreed to do it. So on the county things, we can take that off the list. And also, the county has agreed to do the sidewalk from, cooperation between the county and the town, from Baker Avenue down to Lexington Parkway in the city. And the county will pay from Baker through this town line, basically across from Garner's 4 houses on that street east. And then the cities agreed that they will do from Garner down to Lexington, which would be about 5 homes in the city of Schenectady. But the city engineer and the county have agreed, and we need to thank the Mayor McCarthy for helping us with that. But and they're not doing it this year, but they're going to do the design work. Or actually, they may have the design work. I think they're just going to put it in the budget to do in 2025, but it is going to get done. So that's we're on Knott Street.
Oh, I'm not.
When you get to Baker and Knott, you'll see there's a hill and there's no sidewalk. So people walk on the sidewalk on Knott, and suddenly they have a grassy area
Been there, done that.
gone over the hill. And so we're going to get that fixed. And our thanks to the county and the city. Planning project updates. We discussed a couple at our last meeting. Request for speed humps on Birchwood Lane. I've asked people to drive Mordella Road, and hope you have. I want to just hand this out. It's news clips. This is from 2022 and one from 2023, where both the city of Schenectady and We Should Drive the Streets have wanted to do or going to try some experimental streets with speed humps. And I need to leave a set for Laura too. Folks on Birchwood Lane, we did get the request from residents on Birchwood Lane for speed humps because Birchwood Lane now connects really from Troy Road, and it goes onto Dennison Road. So it used to not be a cross-through road, but it is now. You can get from Route 7. There's a lot of commuter traffic in the morning going back and forth, and that's why we need a sidewalk over there, especially even just getting to the school. I mean, parents, they walk along the grass, but there's no sidewalk, and there is they put a crosswalk sign in the middle of the crosswalk, but it's not a blinking sign on either side. I mean, I think they may have a street sign that blinks on and off that the crosswalk is coming, but there's not a blinking sign like at the co-op or the other crosswalks where you push the button and the traffic. There's a stop sign in front of the crosswalk, and motorists, well, if you go out and stand there and watch it, you see there are a few motorists that do stop. There are many that just go through, even though there's a blinking sign and it's a school crosswalk. And like all school's out, and so they skip over the stop. But that certainly would happen. And we tried on Wyoming. We've approached the town Wyoming Avenue to look at speed humps, and there we were only going to look at temporary rubber ones. But on Mordella Drive, and I'm happy to send it to you again, they actually have 4 streets over there. Mordella Road, Delafield Drive, Rapple Drive, and Pine Avenue. There are speed humps installed on all of this. So we have a near neighbor, Colony, that has put speed humps on 4 roads over there, and the residents they like them. And it's it's not like a bump where you go in a parking lot, and if you're not paying attention, you go over a bump and it's jars you, and they take your muffler with it when you drive away. They only go up about 4 inches, and it's up and down. And I spent a couple of weeks in Florida, in Hollywood, Florida, and they have a lot of speed humps there that they're not every few feet. There might be say 2 on a road, but they're gentle like that. You drive over them, but they do serve the purpose of slowing traffic. And certainly the people on Birchwood would say cars rip up and down here, and there's no sidewalk for the kids. And we have a school where there are 200 or 300 kids that go to school, and a lot of houses around in both Colony and Niskayuna where kids should be able to walk. And it's the same phenomenon that we have at Hillside, that there are a lot of walkers that go to Hillside. They don't have sidewalks, but they're walking in the street with the cars and the buses, and they'd like to get sidewalks. And so the people on Birchwood are the same. And also, you know, they're not other streets. There are older adults, believe it or not, that like to walk also. And the grass, it often has divots and holes. So you're walking and you can twist your ankle. I mean, not that the roads don't too, but if you've got a sidewalk, then it serves other people, especially if you can walk on a concrete sidewalk and then you can cross over and you can get to another road that you can walk on. So you can walk around your neighborhood in a road. But for folks that live on Birchwood or close, you know, to get down to a road at the end of your block or whatever, you need a concrete sidewalk just to walk that half a block. Then you get on a quieter road that you can walk around. But especially with rush hour, and you know, Birchwood Lane is not a safe road. So anyway,
So I just have a question about the speed bumps. Now, for
speed humps.
the speed, okay, so the speed humps, right?
Yeah, or speed platforms. So they're not bumps. And
Okay,
they're about
So
4
they're
inches high.
gradual,
Slow down.
don't cause a problem for, you know, winter when there's lots of snow
No.
on the road and those.
The
Okay.
gentleman that wrote this, and I'll send you this again on Delphi, he was the guy, Les Decker, that was the head of the highway department in Colony. And
Right.
he used to do the snow plowing on
Yeah.
the 4 roads that had the speed humps. And he said, it does not tear up the equipment. I mean, it's gentle, so that the blades, especially if you have a sharp driver, even if we consulted Trish on they know their routes well enough that even if there's a manhole cover that's an inch high on the road, they know where it is, and they'll raise the blade a little bit so that they don't hit that cover and jar their own teeth out, because you're hitting a manhole cover that's in the road and you're hitting it with a blade going 20 miles an hour or whatever. And so if they go on the road like they're between
Route 7.
Central Avenue and the other side of the road in Colony, is it Albany Shaker Road? It may be Albany Shaker, but you know, it's about a mile from Albany Shaker to Central Avenue. And if you go on Central, there's a jeweler right on the corner that you can go down. But you just put in Delafield Drive, and I just encourage people to drive it, even residents. I mean, I hope I can ask Ray Smith, our highway superintendent, to go and drive it, but it's also the town supervisor and the board members. And we have folks on Birchwood Lane that are concerned about the traffic. And to me, I would hope that we could try a road with the speed humps, just to say, let's try it on this road in this unit and just see what is our own experience. And I'd also be happy, I plan to walk Delafield Drive myself just to talk to the homeowners there, because some say it does make a little bit of noise when people go over it. And those residents have had to balance the safety against maybe a little bit of noise, but it may only be 3 or 4 residents on Delafield Drive that say, I'm bothered by the noise. But even when I walked on Birchwood Lane, there were some people that didn't want a sidewalk because they didn't have to shovel it or whatever the reasons are. But you can ask the residents to say, you've got this, and you know, is the noise a factor? And I'm guessing most of them say it's not. And so, but even if the ones that they did, I think, were made by the Colony, and so they could be replaceable. In other words, you can put them on a street and try it for a whole year. And so it's not a rubber, you try it on a street, and it could be the people on Birchwood Lane would love it. And they'd say it slows traffic. It makes it safer to walk kids to school and for older adults to get around. And that would be, I mean, you obviously couldn't do it everywhere, even doing side paths and sidewalks, even though the town is working on that. We know you can't do it for every place in town, and we don't really have to. We have many passive streets where people can walk in the road, but there are some streets like Birchwood or Cornelius or Nicholas or Palmer where we have a lot of foot traffic for kids, And you need the sidewalks close to the schools to get them there. And I mean, I've said it, people are bored of tears here, we say it, but you know, if we are going to ask parents to walk or bike to schools, the infrastructure's got to be in place so that we are not encouraging parents to put their kids' lives at stake by bike riding on Route 7 or bike riding on Rosendale Road or bike riding where it's obviously not safe. But in order for that to happen, we've got to do the legwork. And it may not be as bad as it looks. As a matter of fact, when I looked at Van Antwerp Road, getting from Knott Street East to CBS, there actually is space there from the road in front of the yards. Now, there are a couple where there's a hill, so you'd have to grade that and either move the bike path up or whatever. But really, I know Jessica Kowalski and her family would really like to be able to have a side path that would get kids down to Van Antwerp Middle School and get around. And also, she feels it's an issue to just go the other direction, just to get from a couple houses in on Van Antwerp to get up to the side path on Knott Street East, because there's a lot of speed on the road and it's winding road. And so, but we can, I mean, I think those are, it's not the grading of the road that's the big issue. It's the trees and also getting neighbors to be willing to have an asphalt side path in front of their houses. To be looking down. Okay, Winnie Road easement. The mayor of Winnie Road, Audrey Cox, who we all know, she's been an advocate, and really, she could be on Complete Streets because she's got that advocate fortitude that I'm not giving up till it gets done. And when you go down Winnie Road, there's half of a pathway that it's really on Valerie Drive, and it's Adam Drive. There's a pump station there, so there's a little bit a stub of a road that goes into the pump station, and then there's a gravel path that goes up to the end of Winnie Road. And so Audrey Cox has been saying we should get the town should get an easement and make an asphalt path that goes all the way up and down, and then invite people to either drive to the end of Winnie Road or take a drive on Valerie Drive till you get over to Adam Drive and just walk that stretch up there, and you'll see, I mean, the path is already there. We just need to, put an asphalt path in there and give an easement to whoever owns the property so that, it's not on them if somebody goes on an asphalt path and slides off the road on their bicycle or whatever. But the beauty of that is that Shannon Boulevard and Kilcarney Lane and Macaulay Lane, County Clare Lane, those folks can get access to the bike path. I mean, they do have to come up if they can get over to Mohawk Road on the internal roads that are there, and then they can just go on Troy Road, ride or walk their bikes on the sidewalk till they get down to Winnie Road. Then they can go down Winnie Road, cross over on this bike path that Audrey is a supporter of. Then you come over on Brookhaven, and then you get access to, the Flower Hill connection to the Mohawk Hudson bike path. And so you have a whole, I don't know, maybe 300 homes or whatever that are in there that would have an access way to the Mohawk Hudson bike path without having to go on a busy road. And so she's working on a petition and letters, and is a real advocate. And so we want to do that. Number 4 is the priority letters that they were in the packet, and I'd encourage you to take a look at them. I'll give you my comments on those. That some things we've gotten done. For instance, we've asked the state to do something about Troy Road, these start with a study, but the linkage study, they've all already done it. And so if we're sending our top three things, it could be that and it's a study, we can leave that one there, but, for the state, I was thinking about trying to maybe ask for the sidewalk on Balltown Road that just goes from Knott Street down to Rankin Road, so that students could walk on a sidewalk to get access to the high school. Because they jaywalk now, and in the wintertime, my wife used to work at Shen, you go out and people are wearing dark clothing, you turn on Knott Street to go north, and suddenly you see a figure that's in your headlights or whatever that's jaywalking or dashing across Balltown Road to get to the walk path to go up to the high school. And so some students will still do that no matter what you do. All you have to do is watch James Dean and Giant or whatever. But at least they're having sat at Crescent Road, half of the students actually walk on the grass on Balltown Road till they get down to Rankin, and they use the crosswalk and go up to the high school. The more adventurous ones dash across the road. But I mean, I think if we have the sidewalk there, that at least it's a safe option that,
Yeah.
you could go that way. And
Right.
if we're asking, and, I think that there are things cooking with the state. I just feel like
Well, Bill, we talked about, how they did that study on Walltown Road 30 years ago, right? So it's in certain respects, it's a little outdated. Maybe it would be worth revisiting that study to update, the Walltown study. I mean, that's another option, because it wouldn't just be looking at doing a sidewalk, but maybe looking at intersections as well. So we could ask for something like that.
now, is that something you'd want to put in and ask when we meet with Mark Sacaldo, the engineer? I mean, we always in these requests with a plea to meet with, and it's worked out well meeting with Rory Fluman in terms of county things that they've done. And it worked out very well meeting with the school because, their work at the high school over here, they've done some work with side paths to, hook into Steve Evans Walkway and other things that, they're willing to do those things. And I'm hopeful they'd even be willing to do the side path over to the town park and Rosendale Elementary. But I guess it's, when you actually get to sit down and talk to people face to face, when we met with Rory, we had 10 items on the list. And so we went over those and we got yeses on a couple of them. So, that was good. And so we haven't had the meeting with the state. We talked about it, but I'm assuming, if we, could meet with them, a number of things. And so I'd actually ask you to look at the state list to say, well, is there something you want to drop and add that? Or would you say, let's wait for an update of the Balltown Road study if we could get a meeting with the state and just add that to the list of what we'd like to do?
Mhm.
5 minutes, okay. Actually, we're coming, let me get the priority letters here, see if I have anything else that I was gonna share with Laura. Papers, I'm pleased to learn that papers escape me here as fast as they do at home. Where did they go? Yeah. In other words, I had the letters in front of me here. When
Your calculator?
and my calculator? No, that's the Route 7 study. Oh, no, here they are here. I can't actually. So, the school district, I wanted to stay with those. The ones we did in 2023 go with 2024, request the school district. Then, the state, I was wondering, if we should drop the safety measures for Route 7 because we're doing the linkage study. So in some sense, that's a win. They're already doing that, but there are other, there are other tasks we've agreed to do, so we may want to repeat those. Tasks that belong to Niskuna, we're willing to do those, but we have the school zone crosswalk for Craig Elementary School. We want to keep that. And then we have a crosswalk on Route 7 and Hickory Road. Actually, we can either keep that or we can wait on that because,
Because we haven't got funding for it.
well, no, you're right. We can certainly keep that, but that's going to be addressed in the linkage study, right? In other words, when they come up with a plan for Route 7, we can keep it there. I guess I'm just thinking if we're staying with the top three, that, well, is there another construction project that we could add on the list? In other words, if we met with the state, certainly we talk about update of the Balltown Road study. We talk about accidents at the traffic circle when you get off the Rexford Bridge, and then also sidewalks on Balltown Road. If we meet with a state engineer, we'd have a list of 10 things, and so, we'd add these on. But I just ask you to look at it. If you're happy with the ones we have, we'd have to rewrite the first one because we're asking them to do this study. So the state says, agreed, we've funded the linkage study, and so you don't have to ask us for that. That's a win. We're doing it. Then over on the county ones, in other words, safety measures for Route 7, we can take one off because the linkage study is going to be done. In other words, we don't need to ask Schenectady County to be advocates for a linkage study. The state's already agreed to do it, and that allows us to get, a couple more things on the county, which, like the crosswalk number 2. Well, in other words, I would drop one, safety measures for Route 7. We only ask them to be advocates to help us get the grant. We've got the grant, so that's done. Crosswalk at Naughton Region, Roy Fluman and Paul Sheldon have agreed to do that in 2025, so we can drop that one off. We have side path and sidewalks on Rosendale Road to Iroquois. We can certainly keep that. And a couple we could add would be Van Antwerp Road, and we would use the same language that we have for Rosendale Road. We would just make it Van Antwerp Road and talk about either just going from the traffic circle down to Knott Street East, or really from the traffic circle all the way down to CVS. And then sidewalks on Console Road, we can put that in here too, because we've identified the grass segments on Console Road where you've got a sidewalk in front of the Hannaford grocery store, then you've got a grassy spot, and then I think the Ingersoll home, you've got some sidewalks there. And I don't know, we could put in a pitch, to the county. Of course, they're say we're not rich either, but even if they went to, say, Ferris Road from the Ingersoll home all the way down, which they wouldn't, but at least the first bite of the apple, we should ask the county, look, will you fill these grassy segments that you get from Balltown Road to the Ingersoll home? Would you fill in the grassy segments in the sidewalk right there, which I would recommend putting that in. So, anyway.
I agree.
Okay, so we're agreed on the county one, and well, I will make the suggestions I said here. I'll put in an email and send it to Laura, and I'll copy the rest of the committee, and you can react to those. Catherine, if you'd like to say,
Okay.
hey, let's hold on the sidewalk from Knott Street to Rankin Road, and let's put in, ask them to do the corridor study that's now 30 years old for Balltown Road, and put that in.
Well, we can do both. It's not that one is going to take priority over the other. I don't see why we can't do both.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for joining us, Mary. And if we don't have anything further, I will thank everyone for coming and offering your input and looking over the stuff, and then move that we we adjourn the August 19th meeting. Second, from all in favor of adjournment, Catherine is a hand, and I guess, is Andrew still out there now? Okay, well, we got 3 yeses, so great. Well, thank you all for coming today.
Okay.
To, shovel that themselves, or does the town just have like a little,
I think the town